What's going on, guys? It's Adonis. Now, a lot of you over the past month have been asking me, yo, where's your iPhone 10 review? Are you gonna do an iPhone 10 review? Is it a 2-week review? Is it a 3-week review? And that's what we're here to do today. 1 month later with the iPhone 10, it's the best phone Apple's ever made, but maybe not the best iPhone they've ever made. Let's get into it. Now, if you guys are fans of geek culture content, make sure you hit that subscribe button and you have notifications turned on so you don't miss any future content. All right, guys, so first let's start with the design of the phone. Right off the bat, this is definitely the most attractive phone that Apple's ever made. It is incredible. I love the stainless steel band. It's sandwiched in between two panes of glass. Obviously, Apple's stating that it's the most durable glass on a smartphone, but there are countless videos out there and tests proving that that's not really the case. Now, keep in mind, glass is gonna be glass. Gravity wins the majority of the time with that. But outside of the marketing, this phone feels incredible in the hand. Not to mention the weight of it. I would pick this over any previous phone that I've had based on the weight alone. I actually really like the weight of this phone. Now, we'll get more into the specifics on the display, but I do really like the edge-to-edge nature of this display. We can sit here and talk about semantics all day long about the notch, but having a phone with no top or bottom full bezels is definitely a win for me. I actually really love the aesthetic of this phone. Now, I have been using Apple's other case. It patinaed pretty nice. One thing that I did notice I've actually dropped this phone a couple of times. A couple of scuffs that show up here. I'm not really 100% sure why it scuffs so easily. Like it scuffs so bad, like really easily. But I do like the patina on it quite a bit. And if you're unfamiliar with what patina is, it's when leather wears and it discolors. That's the natural property of what leather will do. I actually kind of like how it does that on this, the type of patina that you can actually physically see on the brown leather case. But with that said, because I had this case on, I don't have any visible scratches on my device. Besides, I lied. There are a couple of tiny scuffs on the bottom here, and a lot of that's primarily around being in my pocket, lint, or a little sand scratching the stainless steel. The cool thing about stainless is you can buff it out. So there you go. Now let's talk about the display, because this has been a kind of feature of criticism and love at the same time, which is really interesting. Not something that Apple isn't used to. They get a lot of hate and love on a lot of their products, but because of the notch, it's definitely been one of those things that people are like, bruh, either they really like it, it doesn't bother them, or they completely hate it. And because it's the first OLED display that Apple's ever used in an iPhone, I have to tell you guys, it is incredible as far as the color accuracy. It is really, really good. There's a lot of YouTubers out there that have done far more extensive tests on this, more scientific than what I have done. I just like the way things look on it, especially the P3 color space. When you're watching videos on Netflix or any cinematic looking videos look completely different on this device versus the iPhone 7 or 8 series phones. Now, probably one of the great things about this device is its outdoor visibility. Now, this is gonna be a personal preference thing for sure if it's not bright enough for you. However, for me and day-to-day use, it was perfectly fine. It was a tad bit brighter than the LCD panel on the iPhone 7 Plus that I have. But all in all, guys, I really enjoy the display and the color accuracy. It's pretty amazing. Now, I do have a Belkin screen protector on here. It's their Invisiglass screen protector. Now, that may affect the visibility on this display, whether it be good or bad. So just keep that in mind that I've been using this with this screen protector on it since day one. But before I gave the phone away, I had a space gray iPhone 10 without a screen protector on it, and that looked fine in direct sunlight. So next up is battery life. Now, one of the main reasons why I took so long on this video is because the battery life a lot of times is predicated on the apps being optimized for the phone. Now, over the first couple of weeks, YouTube was not optimized and was a massive drain on the iPhone 10's battery. Like, outrageous bad. It was ridiculous. But in YouTube fashion, they sent out an update, fixed that, so we didn't have that issue anymore. And the battery life on this thing is really good. And keep in mind as well, battery life is going to be based on the user and what they do. So to kind of give you an idea, I have about 7 email accounts coming into this phone all day long. I have 2 YouTube accounts coming in. Well, 3 if you consider Ismahawk TV, and Absolutely Tech. Notifications from those accounts for YouTube, comments, things like that. So my phone is bombarded with notifications all day long. And that's on top of Facebook, on top of Instagram and Snapchat, not to mention my use on YouTube just viewing videos. And I would easily get to the end of the day without having to charge my phone. I said probably by the end of the day, once I plug up, I'm probably about like 13, 14%. Now keep in mind, if you're not a super heavy user, it's gonna vary. I know people that have iPhone 10s that have a couple email accounts, couple notifications here and there from their Instagram, their Facebook. They do some of the Snapchat things, take photos, stuff like that, and they go home with like 50 to 60% of their battery still left. So it's gonna vary. If you're a heavy user, just be prepared that you may or may not get through an entire day depending on how heavy of a user you are. Now, one thing that I do love about OLED is the ability to conserve energy. And if you guys have been around on my channel quite a bit, I did a video on the original Apple Watch, how to get 2 days out of the original Apple Watch battery, and I was putting the Apple Watch into grayscale mode because it's an OLED display. But on the iPhone 10, I found something that could take that even further. Now, this is going to obviously hinder what the phone looks like, but if you're in a pinch and you need to, conserve a battery, this is probably the best way to do it. And I call it the super battery mode. So essentially what you're gonna enable is the battery saver mode, enable grayscale, and enable smart invert. And this is going to be ridiculous. I'm telling you right now, even though you're gonna be watching your videos in black and white, the battery life that you're gonna get out of this is ridiculous. Now, I ran this phone in that mode for an entire day just to see how it would affect my phone. And I'm not joking right now. I had about 55% left, like right before I was about to go to bed, and that was around midnight, to plug my phone in. Guys, like that's crazy. Now, the performance of the device. Holy sh! This thing is a rocket ship. And this is just talking about the regular use of the phone, jumping in and out of applications, multitasking, watching video, the render times, the buffer times, things like that. This phone is super fast. Like it just feels so snappy in a comparison to like my iPhone 7 Plus, for example. And the performance has a negative side as well. And I guess this is a great segue into it's not the best iPhone that Apple's ever made. And I have to say it, Apple, why does this only have 3 gigabytes of RAM? I am fully aware that you have options for background app refresh to turn that on and off. Got that. However, when I'm watching a video on YouTube and then I end up going out of it really quick to maybe check something on Facebook or check, a notification from my YouTube to reply to something in my Studio app, and then I want to go back to the YouTube app to watch something and that video is not there anymore and I have to find it again to watch it, that's a little annoying. Now, maybe it's enough for those that aren't heavy users, but for those that are heavy media consumers and do a lot on their phone at one time, you need more RAM, guys. Like this needs at least 4 gigs, at least. And that's kind of like the first part of the why didn't you do this part of the video. So Apple during their press event talked about this being a new redesign of the phone, the next wave of what the phone is gonna be, the future of the iPhone. And you saw the aesthetic was just like polarizing, like, yo, this is way different from an iPhone we are used to looking at, minus the obvious, lightning port on the bottom and the, kind of famous now dual lens camera system, just vertical instead of horizontal. This is a new looking iPhone. But what didn't change is iOS. Now, before we get into the, software things that I feel they could have improved on and some of the things why I think that this is not the best iPhone that Apple's ever made, I want to play a video clip from Steve Jobs at All Things D.
If you look at the reason that the iPod exists and that Apple's in that marketplace, it's because these really great Japanese consumer electronics companies who kind of owned the portable music market for a long, invented it and owned it, couldn't do the appropriate software, couldn't conceive of and implement the appropriate software. Because an iPod's really just software. It's software in the iPod itself, it's software on the PC or the Mac, and it's software in the cloud for the store. And it's in a beautiful box, but it's software. If you look at what a Mac is, it's OS X. Right? It's in a beautiful box, but it's OS X. And if you look at what an iPhone will hopefully be, it's software. And so the big secret about Apple, of course, not so big secret maybe, is that Apple views itself as a software company.
Now, with this idea, this philosophy of software being the main component of what drives a user experience on a device, this is where I feel like some of the things just weren't fulfilled the way I thought they could have been on the iPhone X. Now, I've been using iOS since the iPhone 4, and yes, we all know it, you love it or you hate it. There's things to love and things to hate about it. However, this was their opportunity personally that I felt that you went all the way new with the design, but you didn't even improve the UI or the UX for this phone to actually fully take advantage of this new quote unquote experience. I'll give you an example. Since I was using this phone over the first 2 or 3 weeks with just this hand, my non-dominant hand, I usually hold my phone like this, like I cradle it like this to hold it and watch things and scroll through stuff. Now, with it being held like this, all of the weight is on my pinky, which means I cannot reach the top of this display at all. Like, let me just show you what I mean. Not gonna happen. Now, some of you are like, bro, you have reachability. Sometimes reachability just doesn't wanna work. It'll hit sometimes, and sometimes it just won't work for you. And that was when I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to do the assistive touch button and activate that for the ability to use reachability because I can't reach the top of my phone. This is where I was feeling like, okay, you wanted gestures. Why couldn't you just put them in the bottom? You did them on the top. Why can't you just put them on the bottom? Like, I just don't understand it. The control center's here, right? We know that. Now, a lot of you, if you don't know, an easy way to get to the multitasking instead of going up and holding is just doing an arc from the corner. If that's the case, you could have just did it from the other side to be able to do that, to invoke control center. Like, I don't understand why I need to reach the top right corner to invoke something if I'm using the phone with one hand. And I feel like one of the biggest problems in iOS is the notification system. That's something that should have been handled on iPhone X. A list of just your notifications. Like, it's not like Instagram and then all the Instagram stuff and I can just consolidate them. It's just a list in chronological order. For what? Now, one of the things that I didn't really understand was 3D Touch was brought out on the 6S. And it just seemed like it has been forgotten. Like, there's been zero improvement or, optimization for the iPhone X. And this could have been another way to invoke multitasking or the control center. That could have been on the little slide bar you have on the bottom. You could just 3D touch that and that would invoke that. I just feel like there was nothing really new with 3D touch on a display with no buttons. It's just the same iOS experience you have on every iPhone prior to this phone. Now, that may be a good thing for some people. They're like, hey, I don't want a brand new thing. Like, I like the fact that I know the majority of the system. But when you're kind of going out to reinvent what this iPhone is supposed to feel like and do and have the flexibility of a large display, I just feel like the interface is lacking in that. Like, they didn't take advantage. Like, why can't I rotate this? You can do it on the Plus phones, but you can't do it on this. I don't understand. And that goes into the aspect ratio. It has nothing to do with the notch. I don't care about the notch, even in video. It doesn't bug me that much. The majority of content, when you watch it, the camera is focused on a center point. Most film are like that. Rarely, when you watch a movie, is something in the, 0.2% of the display on that side that you're like, oh, dang, that was important. I needed to see that. It's not really that big of a deal. It's not really in the way that much. But it's the aspect ratio. It's a 19.5 by 9. Like, it's just really strange. The phone could have been a little bit wider to make it easier for people that have 16 by 9 video to fill the display a lot better. When you put this up against a Plus phone, it literally sits inside the width of the screen of the Plus phone. This phone does. So it's one of those things where it's like, you could have just made the phone a tad bit wider. That way we won't have to have this crazy crop in when we want to fill the display up. And a lot of the apps would actually, I feel like they feel more immersive with a better aspect ratio if you'd have made it just a little bit wider. Now, again, on the display, I know there isn't an OLED display on a phone with 120 hertz. However, as an owner of an iPad Pro, you don't want to use a display anymore that isn't 120 hertz. You just don't. Like, you go from the iPad Pro, you're like, wow, this feels incredible. And then you go to the iPhone X and you're like, wow, why doesn't it feel as snappy? And it's not the processor. It's just the refresh rate of the display. Like, this could have been another big, oh my God moment for the iPhone X. Like, yes, it's amazing. It's probably selling like hotcakes, but what I'm saying is, it's like, you're like these little things that you keep missing. It's like, All you needed was just this. And I'm not saying, it was the super easiest thing to put into the display. It's just, if you've been working on this for as long as you say you have, why wasn't that like a priority at least? You know what I mean? Like 120 hertz on the iPad is crazy. That should be here. So I know a lot of people are gonna ask about the cameras. Let me just get this out of the way right now. The camera on this phone is amazing. The front camera, I don't know. Let me explain, okay? I promise it's gonna make sense. Apple made such a big deal about the notch and the camera technology that's in this for facial recognition, for emojis and things like that. Now, the crazy thing for me about this is you have a phone called the Pixel 2 XL. Now, I don't own a Pixel 2 XL. However, I have taken photos on a Pixel 2 XL, and I just have to say, the Pixel 2 XL's front camera portrait mode is much better than the one that's on this phone. I don't understand it, to be quite honest. Like, you have the technology in here to make it incredible, but Pixel just does a remarkable job with its machine learning algorithm. It's outrageous. Even its rear camera with its single lens is still on par with the dual camera system on this phone for portraits. So it's one of those things where I'm like, how? Now, to defend Apple, this is in beta at the moment. They did say that it's on there as well. It is a beta. However, like, come on, like it should be better than this. Like it should be better. And one of those other little software things that I just didn't understand is why Face ID does not work in landscape mode. Like I don't understand it. Like if the phone is sitting on my desk in landscape mode and I get a text message and I just want to read the text message and I just want to swipe to open the phone, I can't. I have to grab the phone, reorientate it, have Face ID unlock the phone, then set it back. Like, no, I just want to have it sit there and I can just read it in landscape. Why can't I do that? Why? And emojis, I didn't really use. I've used it twice. As soon as I did it the first time, I was completely over it. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I was over. And then when I was like, let me see how accurate this actually is, and I started covering all the other sensors except for the camera, and it didn't change it at all, which was strange to me. I was like, okay, so it's not using any of these sensors to track your face? So what you're saying is that we could have used this on the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus. That's what you're saying, because you have the same processor. Now maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I did something wrong and it doesn't work without, but I covered every sensor except for the camera on here and it worked fine. So I don't get it. Now with the notch, as far as what you can do alongside of it in software, I feel was another missed opportunity. Now, when you see it on here, you have these spaces here, which I personally feel could have been utilized for 3D touch buttons. Personally, one of these could have been a play pause up in the corner. That could have happened. One of these could have been a volume that I can just, press and slide to adjust the volume. But not having anything there to me was just kind of a waste. Like even in mail, like this could have been buttons here, like menu, that mailbox thing, the chevron could have just been there. That could have been a button to access like other parts of your mailbox that could just slide over. You can slide it back. I don't know. I don't design UI. Now I know a lot of you are probably like, yo, I thought you said you liked this phone. I really, really do. I really like the phone. But when you're paying in Australia $1,579 for a phone, you kind of have a right to be a little bit nitpicky on things that you expected the phone to be. Just saying, I'm not saying that this is a horrible phone. I'm not saying that this is the best phone in the world either. But it's like they almost made the best phone on the planet. They're like, hey, we could almost make the best phone versus just making the best phone. Like the Razr has a 120 hertz display. Yes, it is LCD, it's not OLED. Okay, noted. We could have made the best camera on the market, but the Pixel has the best camera on the market with machine learning that's outrageous. We could have made Siri even better on this phone, but no, Google Now is still killing the game. And I'm telling you right now, like Siri just isn't powerful enough. Like guys, you guys essentially made voice popular. Like you're the ones that brought it to the game with the 4S. And then you just kind of said, like, haven't really pushed the envelope with it. So, yeah. So, do I like this phone? Yes, I really do. I really, really do. However, there are drawbacks, just like every other smartphone. So, let me know in the comments down below if you have an iPhone 10. Let me know what your experiences are with it. Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you not like it? Is it overrated? I want to know your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. And also, if you guys aren't subscribed to the channel, make sure you guys are subscribed. I will be coming out with a new update video around this channel. I'm going full-time on YouTube in about 5 days. So you'll see a slew of new content all the time with a new schedule. So look out for that video as well. If you guys like this video, hit that thumbs up button, show your boy some love. And if you want to check out my last video, the link will be right here to the side. All right, guys, till next time. See you later.